everybody! My name's Erica and welcome to my channel, Ginger Books. So today, I'm not bringing you another vlog video, but instead we're going to talk about my all-time favorite series ever. Now, it's supposed to be the top 10, but I guess I can't count, and it's only 8. Because I realized only all of these series but one I have actually completed, and then the rest are unread or not completed on my shelf. Yikes. Reader struggles, am I right? So, anyways, without further I can't speak today. Without further ado, let's just get into the video. Now, my number one favorite series of all time has been dethroned. And you'll understand why if you have watched my chaotic vlog videos and some of my book talks on this series. And that is Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I absolutely love this book, love this world, and love the time period because I'm yours if you can talk about Victorian London or just the Victorian era in general. And that's why I love this series so much, and I have grown to love the characters so much in this book. But I'm not going to talk about it because you can go and watch the video, which I'll link down below, of this book talk for this, and also watch my journey while reading this whole series, which is a 4-book series. Now, the book and series that kind of was dethroned of number 1 and has been the reigning champion since high school was the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. Cassandra Clare will always be in my top 3 just because I love the world that she creates. I mean, present day New York, but under that veil, there is things that are not what they seem, and I just love how she paints both of these worlds and this culture so grained in. It is just so great. So this book follows the main character, Clary, as she embarks on a journey. As she finds out, her life is not what she was told by her mother. As her mother gets kidnapped and she has to rely on 3 shadow hunters and her best friend Simon in order to find her. And she is dropped into this magical world of the shadow hunters, finding out these are, the demon slayers or the people that bring order to the world that she's dropped in, which is full of werewolves, vampires, demons, and the fair folk, and everything else. As I said, one of the things I loved about the way Cassandra Clare just thinks of these worlds that I wish I could just dive into her head and just be like, how do you create this world? It's so stunning, and that's why I love it so much. And I also love the whole plot and how dramatic it can get. The events leading up to it, and you think it's going to go one way, and it goes another. Now, Clary and I have some issues in this series, especially through books 1 through 4, but I still love it. Still give it 5 out of 5. If I could rate it higher, 10 out of 5. Just like Stalking Jack the Ripper. And that's why it was so hard to dethrone Cassandra Clare, because this series also holds a special place in my heart. So, yes. And Jace Whalen on the front cover. Okay, down, girl. Down. That is the series that I have really not completed. I did get to the last book, but for some reason I stopped reading it, and I don't remember why. I think I might have gotten too busy and just fell out of, because in high school I kind of fell out of reading when reading kind of became a chore for me. So I think that's probably what happened, but not 100% sure. Oh no. I'm supposed to be reading it because the new book comes out next year. Hopefully I have time, because I am rereading it, and I've only gotten to the 4th book. Oops. 3rd book in this rank is another series that I started this year, and it's not actually yet completed. It's a duology, which will be a trilogy next year, with the last installment coming out in January. And this series is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. This is the first book I read to get into the historical fiction genre, and oh my word, I love it. I usually gravitate towards the supernatural, the paranormal, suspense, mysteries, and this just has everything wrapped into one in almost like a true crime novel, and it's so great. Well, not a true crime novel, it's a mystery crime novel, set in following 2 timelines, and it's so great. So this story takes place in two different timelines, one in 1936 with the grand opening of Ellington Academy, named after Albert Ellington. And then the second timeline, you're in present day with the main character, Stevie. So, talking about the past timeline, something happens where a true note signed by Truly Devious is given to Albert Ellington, warning him that something is going to happen to him or his wife at his precious school. So, a threat. And Albert Ellington is like this huge, like, I believe he said movie tycoon. I'm not 100% sure. I read this summer, so it's been a little bit. He doesn't believe it. He's just like, oh, whatever. Until his wife and daughter go missing, and a student turns up dead at his school. Uh-oh. Now, this is an unsolved case. So you go to present day with Stevie, our main character, who is absolutely involved, captivated by cold cases, crime, and mysteries. And she wants to get into the Ellington Academy, which is still ongoing today, to solve this mystery and make it her mission to solve it. Until something happens in the present day that starts bringing in the past and the present in one and intertwining the fates, is what I like to call. And it is so well done. And I love how the history element, how Maureen Johnson pays attention to detail like Carrie Moniscalco did, making sure, getting the mannerisms, getting like kind of like the lifestyle, why Albert Ellington would have been thinking this way to develop the school, how, people were treated differently depending on gender, sex, and race. Like, so much attention to detail, and also formulating this fictional, like, true crime that, will go unsolved because of, not limited things that, crime investigations, FBI and police would have had. I mean, I could believe that this was an actual cold case. I mean, that's how well done it is. And then also the way she represents Stevie with the anxiety disorder, because I felt like I was kind of being represented since I have issues with anxiety. And just the way Stevie copes with it, and how setting up the events to these major plots and how her character changes, it's so wonderful. I could go on and on about this book, but you just need to read it. It's amazing. And I have read the second book, but obviously the first is probably one of my favorites. So, and then the next one is I think it's something Wall. I'll put it down below here because I can't remember the name. It's like the hand on the wall or something like that. So, and it's coming out in January. It's the last one, and I'm not prepared for the series to end. Now, the fourth one on this list is also a series I read in high school, and actually kind of has a story behind it because I didn't want to read it. My mom thought I would be interested in it because I was interested in Twilight. And I was like, nah, Mom, this sounds dumb. Turns out it became one of my favorite series to read, and I reread it twice. All of the books, and followed it as they released these books. Well, let me just show you the book. So this series I'm talking about is the House of Night series by Percy and Kristen Cast. Percy is the mother and Kristen is the daughter, and they wrote this series together. The House of Night, ooh, that's kind of reflecting. Now, the House of Night series takes place with Zoe Redbird, who is the main character here, who has just been newly marked in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and she has to go live at the House of Night, which is where all of the vampire fledglings go to school, and they have to be around adult vampires or they could get sick and die and reject the change. And what I mean by the change is they're fledglings who have to go through a change first to become an adult vampire. And it's kind of a new twist on the vampire myth, and I absolutely love it. But of course, Zoe Redbird meets her friends, but she is presented with some challenges with a snooty, kind of blonde-haired cheerleader type bully, and finding out that the famous quote is that dark doesn't always mean evil and light doesn't always mean good. At the beginning of the book, I probably just butchered that. I'm sorry for whoever read it. And she also finds out that something that has not been gifted to a fledgling vampire in a very long time is that her crescent mark is filled in. The only time your crescent mark is filled in is when you're a adult vampire with swirling tattoos. And she has the power of the 5 elements. So water, air, fire, earth, and spirit. It's a very fun, exciting series. It does, I have to admit, and why it's on like number 4 is because it holds so many memories of reading this book, like late into the night. It's even got probably some annotations and maybe some chocolate stains because I had a habit of eating food. But it also had some issues towards the middle of the books, like maybe books, I think it was like 5 through 10, 5 through 9 maybe, that were kind of, didn't necessarily need to happen. You could have taken some of those books out and had a shorter series. But I read them all and stayed true to it because at the end it gets so much more exciting. And the book, which one is the book that Stark gets introduced? That book is my favorite because my Stark, my homeboy, my fictional boyfriend for the longest time, until Jay Swalen took that. Yeah. Anywho. My book. So the next one is number 5, so it is in my top 5, is The Fallen series by Lauren Kate. Now, I'm not 100% sure how I remember this plot, so I am so sorry. I read it back in late high school, and I loved it because it follows a girl who gets into trouble, even though it's not her fault, and she ends up having to go live at King Cross Academy for delinquents, is pretty much what it's called, and for troubled teens. And she meets this boy who, through the whole series, she finds out is actually her angel boyfriend. And she keeps getting reincarnated as a curse set by him because he loved a mortal and he shouldn't have. Or wasn't a mortal, or she was actually a high-ranking angel. I can't remember. Maybe I'm thinking of a different series. As I said, details are a little fuzzy, but it was one of my absolute favorite series because it was, again, had a historical element to it, but with a suit like a paranormal romance. Love it. Yeah. The next series, number 6, is more of kind of like a middle grade book, but I loved it because I love mythology, and that should give it away what it is. And that is the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series by Rick Riordan. I absolutely love this series. I thought it was so cute. I loved the mythology in it and how Rick Riordan paid attention to detail with the mythology. And I just loved Percy and his friends, especially Annabeth. Loved her so much, and she definitely fit being the daughter of Athena to a T. Well, this series follows Percy Jackson and his friends as he is pretty much trying to prevent the War of the Gods at this point. In this one, the lightning thief, he has to restore the lightning back to Zeus, if I remember right, and then he just keeps going on adventures until the last book where he has to help Olympus fight against the dark forces that are trying to take over it. So, I could totally be forgetting what this series is about. Sorry. I have not read this series in such a long time, and it is due for a reread. But you obviously can see this copy has been reread a couple of times. But obviously it's not retaining, because I'm pretty sure that's not what the book was about. This next series, number 7, is another kind of like middle grade book, but it's what kind of got me into reading series and definitely got me interested into history, especially early prairie history. That should give it away also, and that is the Laura Ingalls Wilder series. And I absolutely fell in love with this series, and obviously this follows Laura Ingalls Wilder's life in a very fun, fictional kind of way, even though most of the stuff that she has in her books is true, with some changed details. So that's why I say it's kind of like fiction, nonfiction, / like autobiography. But it is such... Look at all those colorful spines. I got this when I was in 9th grade, so yes, it has been with me, 9th grade, since I was 9, so it has been with me for such a long time. I got it out of, those Scholastics, like, books you can sometimes, you order once a month for your classroom. This was one of them, and I just love them, and they've obviously been read several different times. It was one of my favorite series, along with Ramona Quimby. So yeah, and one of my favorite books of all time out of this series would have to be the last 3, because I love when Laura finds Almanza Wilder and he's courting her. Oh my goodness. I just love it. Yeah. So that is, maybe I should do a childhood favorite series or books. Ideas. Now, last but surely not least, because this was literally my middle school life in a nutshell. And that is the last one, number 8, the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. Obviously, I don't have to talk a whole a lot about this, who the main characters are, because if you have not read this book, where have you been? Anybody who was a Twihard fan back in middle school, and yes, that is dating me a little bit, even though I'm only 23. But I loved this series. I reread it 5 different times. My Breaking Dawn book that's sitting on my shelf right now is literally falling apart because that's how many times I reread this series. So this is actually a new book because I wanted all hardback editions of these books because I have the mass paperback that was released with the movie. And I do have a new Breaking Dawn book because sadly I may have to retire the other one because it is so old. Out of the whole entire series, Breaking Dawn is probably my favorite one. But what's really shocking with me is I was not a Jasper or a Jacob, or Jasper. I wasn't an Edward or a Jacob person. I actually was Team Jasper. I really liked him. I kind of liked his backstory. He was, a US cavalryman in the Civil War, which kind of intrigued me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're that old. I would have loved to sit down and chat with him. Like, what was the Civil War like? What was, like, the events leading up after that? Like, Victorian, like, America, the antebellum South. Like, I am a nerd. Yes, I am. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. That is my top 8, and maybe I'll finally get a top 10, like, list filled out. I need to read more. Yeah, so that's a little bit more about me and my reading tastes and what I like, and sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about, so I try to fake it till I make it. I'm so sorry for the Percy Jackson fans. I will get better. I need to reread it. I apologize. Without further ado, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please click that subscribe button and click that bell notification so you'll be notified when I post videos. Usually try to post videos Monday and Thursdays, with Mondays being my vlogs and Thursdays being the fun videos like this one. Alright, I'm done blabbing. So, thank you so much and you have a great day. Bye!